This is Dylan Larkin. He's been the captain of the Detroit Red Wings for the last 5 years. Born and raised in Michigan, Larkin was the clear-cut choice to be the captain of this team and lead them back to the playoffs. But it has been a decade since the Detroit Red Wings have tasted playoff hockey, and Dylan Larkin has been at the center of that team within that span. But their shortcomings in success doesn't lay squarely on the shoulders of Larkin himself. General Manager Stevie Yzerman has also been at the foundation of this team in that span, and the so-called Yzer plan has simply not worked. After a brutal season that saw the Detroit Red Wings have a devastating March collapse that ruined their season entirely, everything has taken an ugly turn. A trade request from the captain himself has left the direction of this team entirely up in the air, and a fan base extremely pissed. And now the situation has gone even more cloudy with GM Steve Yzerman stepping down. So the Red Wings are not so secretly a mess. So how the hell did we get here, and can they be saved? Well, let's take a deeper look. Now, before we continue, today's video is sponsored by our good friends over at SeatGeek. It is the off season, but that doesn't mean SeatGeek takes it off. They got tickets for concerts, festivals, games, you name it. They got it for your next live event. The MLB season is in full swing. The NFL season's coming up as well, and the NHL just dropped their opening day schedule. So if you want tickets there, SeatGeek will have them. Here's how easy it is. You browse seating on the app or website, look for a scale of 1 to 10. If it's green, that's a banger. Snatch up those tickets and get into the event on a great deal. I've been using them for years. It's why they're a lock on the channel. And after everyone's done in Cancun, I'll be using them frequently to get into games and get content for you guys. They're the best by hooking us up as well. Just use code HOCKEY2026 for 10% off your next pair of tickets. All you gotta do is download the app or click it on the link below. It'll automatically apply the code to your account and you're ready to go with the deal. Get started, use the code, and enjoy your next game on a great deal using SeatGeek. Now, this relationship between the captain Dylan Larkin and GM Steve Yzerman has been one that has been on the rocks for a while. Now, we will break down Larkin's game in just a moment here, but Larkin was supposed to be the perfect story for Detroit. The only Michigan-born captain in Red Wings history, he plays in every situation and has tucked 30 goals in each of the past 5 seasons. But as we know, it takes more than just one man to have a good team, and the Red Wings have simply not built a good team around him whatsoever. Larkin's rookie season in 2015-2016 was Pavel Datsyuk's final year in the NHL. He had 1 year with the Magic Man until he decided to call it quits. Henrik Zetterberg was there as well, but he was also forced to end his career due to injury 2 years after that. Since then, the Red Wings have never been able to find another elite center to pair with Larkin. Just take a look at this list. Here are Detroit's top 10 scoring centers since the 2015-2016 season. Henrik Zetterberg is still second on that team scoring list despite last playing in 2018. So that's no bueno. And the reason why that's important is because Dylan Larkin is the Red Wings' #1 center. By definition, he is a top 32 center in the league, and he likely falls anywhere between the 15 and 20 range. But on a Stanley Cup winning team, he is probably a very elite #2 center. He's never scored more than 79 points in a season, and with other teams having superstars who either surpass or flirt with the 100-point mark, the Red Wings have struggled to keep up in the middle of the ice. Now let's take a look at Larkin's game itself and what he does best, because it's important. The #1 quality of Larkin is his speed. He used to be one of the fastest guys in the league. 10 years ago, he actually won the fastest skater competition, and there's no question that he can still motor. When he gets a chance to use his legs, he can still burn opponents very cleanly. But now being 30, top-end speed has kind of taken a back seat. He still ranks in the 84th percentile league-wide in terms of overall skating speed, but as you get a little bit older, you get a little wiser too. And Larkin uses his speed in more creative ways on the transition. One of Detroit's problems last season was the overall team speed in general, yet they were still deadly on the transition because they had weapons like Patrick Kane, Alex DeBrincat, Lucas Raymond, and Larkin himself that all like to do damage on these east-west type of plays. Larkin especially has adapted to use his speed more intelligently in certain situations like this. A younger Larkin with fresher legs maybe would have tried to burn both the back checker and the defender ahead of him with straightaway speed. But that's a play made with not a lot of foresight. Instead, watch how he extends this sequence with a quick punch stop to decelerate and trick the back checker into thinking he's curling up towards the blue line. Not only does that make the defender lose his angle and body positioning on Larkin, but it also creates a gap between him and the defender in front of him. All of a sudden, Larkin has room to attack deeper in the zone, and being amongst the elite in high danger passes, he's now got the room to find a dangerous slot option for a Detroit goal. Larkin himself isn't usually the one lugging the mail too and creating zone entries with possession like other high-end elite #1 centers in the NHL. For example, guys like Celebrini, McDavid, and Jack Eichel all love to start their offensive approach with the puck attacking between the dot lanes. Instead, Larkin's style is more aligned with a center like Auston Matthews, who prefers a more give-and-go style of entry as opposed to entering with sole possession. Larkin is really effective on the walls right before the entry too, and as teammates go to kick the puck out wide, he's got the mitts to beat the pressure and send an area pass to space for a streaking teammate to pick up the puck. Although you can't be a top center in this league without creating space away from the puck, and Dylan Larkin does this for his teammates. Here, Larkin decides to handle the zone entry himself, and after gaining the blue and deferring to his winger, he makes a strong offensive stick check to tie up the D and buy space. It is a fundamental center lane drive, hockey 101, but it gives both his teammates a lane to make a play and gets Detroit a goal. Larkin had 34 goals last season, and 17 of them came in the greasiest areas of the ice. He was amongst the best in the league at scoring goals in high danger areas. He's not afraid to battle in the trenches. He's got a knack for being slippery around checks, and that allows him to use his quick hands to jump all over a loose puck. However, you still see that element of give and go in his offensive play too. Rather than attack the high danger areas with possession in the O zone, he finds his way to be just as effective using his teammates as a relief option and then heading towards the net into soft space to fire home a goal. Now, you don't make the Team USA Olympic team without being great at checking either, and Dylan Larkin's defensive game is extremely solid. One of Detroit's biggest problems last season, which is that they were not great at forechecking as a team. Most of the team was average or below in that category, which meant that they didn't create a lot of turnovers and their time with possession in the O zone was very limited. Larkin himself isn't a heavy forechecker, but his intelligence and speed can make him very dangerous when he gets the proper support. Watch him here close on this check quickly because of his speed, and he doesn't use the body, but he makes a cheeky poke to knock the puck loose and then immediately reloads back into the middle into good defensive positioning. This time he gets support with the F2, and because Larkin reloaded properly and took the right defensive route into the middle, he's immediately in the most dangerous spot on the ice once the turnover happens. And this is what we love most about Larkin's game, because he combines effort with his IQ on the defensive side to break up plays. He's got a sneaky anticipation about him too. Watch how he busts back on this 3-on-2 to take away the most dangerous cross-ice pass, leaving the safest option being the high man. He recognizes in real time that that's the best available play, and he quickly breaks it up. This ability to check and anticipate the opponent's next play makes him a solid penalty killer too, and a guy that can play in all situations. When you put all this together, you got a great player down the middle of the ice, but he certainly needs help. As we've shown before, Larkin has never had a proper second-line center to help ease some of the workload on him. And on top of that, he's not exactly elite at any one thing to make him a bona fide #1 center in the NHL. But Detroit has never had a top 5 or even top 10 winger in the league to help elevate his offensive instincts. For example, if you put him on Vegas, Minnesota, or Dallas, 3 out of the 4 teams that are on his trade list, each one of those teams have some of the best wingers in the NHL. Pairing Larkin's give-and-go offensive style along with a winger who can both facilitate and finish could actually help Larkin reach his full potential even in his 30s. And this is where the other side of this organizational disaster comes into play, because Detroit has done a brutal job of building around Dylan Larkin. Drafting early in Larkin's career was especially poor under former GM Ken Holland. From 2015 to 2018, the Red Wings made 5 first-round picks who were all underwhelming. Then once they asked Ken Holland what the shape of Italy was and gave him the boot in 2019, the Red Wings legend Stevie Y stepped in to try and implement the Yzer plan. Already missing the playoffs 3 times, the Red Wings went into a rebuild. And only 3 of Yzerman's picks since that time, and Mo Seider, Lucas Raymond, and Simone Edvinsson have developed into core pieces for Detroit. Stevie Y did go down the free agency and trade route to try and fill in the gaps, but none of it has worked out. And over the years, the relationship between Larkin and Yzerman has only gotten worse and worse. It started back in 2023 when Larkin signed an 8-year extension at $8.7 million a year, and the very next day, Yzerman traded one of Larkin's best friends on the team in Tyler Bertuzzi, and Larkin was pretty broken up about it. He was almost brought to near tears. 2 years later, in April of 2025, Larkin showed even more frustration with Yzerman, this time over his inaction at the trade deadline. That season, the Red Wings were 1 point out of a wild card spot at the deadline, but Stevie Y was out here picking cherries and only made one minor trade with the Blackhawks. They went 9-9-2 over the final 20 games to miss by 4 points. Speaking to the media after the season ended, Larkin threw some shade at Stevie, saying, "We didn't gain any momentum from the trade deadline and guys were kind of down about it." He added it would have been nice to add something and bring a little bit of a spark on the ice and maybe a morale boost as well. So Stevie Y said, "Okay, you little shit, I can talk to the media too," and he had a clap back of his own, responding with, "I'm counting on our best players, our leaders, to give us that morale boost. That's what they're paid for, and that is the expectations for them." Then, of course, this past season happened, and the Red Wings were in a playoff spot up until March, which just so happens to be the month of their kryptonite. And they completely fell short, marking it a decade since making the playoffs. In that time, Dylan Larkin also won a gold medal with Team USA. And with American superstars seemingly wanting to form an Avengers squad on teams down south, he formally requested a trade and handed Steve Yzerman a list of just 3 teams. Those 3 teams were Vegas, Minnesota, and Florida. And he did that despite having 5 years left on his deal. So that really handcuffed Yzerman and the Red Wings. But Yzerman wasn't backing down. He made comments that said, basically, we're not going to rush into anything and meet his request if it doesn't help the Red Wings. And so now that brings us to the present day, where GM Steve Yzerman was announced to be stepping down from his role as general manager. Not fired, apparently, but he's now switched to an advisor role for Chris Ilitch, the owner. So basically assistant to the regional manager is, I guess, his new position. But what exactly that means for the Detroit Red Wings right now is up in the air. Does this mean a Larkin trade becomes more imminent? Is this an attempt to heal the relationship with Larkin? I don't know. All I know is that in a Larkin trade, it would be very hard for Detroit to win that deal with Larkin's requested teams. And so you have a fan base pissed off at all angles right now. They're pissed off because their captain has seemingly turned his back on the fan base and wanting out to try and win a cup. They're also pissed off because one of the franchise's most iconic figures has led them to a decade of mediocrity. But going forward, the Yzer plan is officially finished, and we're going to see what happens next. So what do you think of the Detroit Red Wings? What happens next? What do you think they need to do next? Let me know in the comments down below. We know why the Red Wings suck, but if you want to find out why all 32 teams sucked last season, you can check out our latest video here. Let me know in the comments down below. I'm Anthony. I do all the breakdowns for the channel. If you want to stay up to date on all things NHL and dive deeper into the biggest moves, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss a single thing.